The last few hundred yards of the 1989 Mobil 1 Rally Challenge, the first year of the competition, proved to be pretty tense for former world champion Stig Blomqvist. He emerged from the final stage, the champion, by a mere second, typifying the very precise demands of an event that sets out to identify the top all-rounder, the quickest driver on a variety of terrain, a driver who can handle the full range of international rally cars. Blomqvist earned the respect of the sport last year. What about 1990? Once again, 6 drivers will be tackling 5 stages, 2 on the tarmac of the Isle of Man, 2 in the forests of North Yorkshire, and this opening stage in Penmachno Forest in North Wales. 3 of the 5 manufacturers remain unchanged from last year. The Vauxhall Nova is the car for Wycombe Forest. Toyota and Ford provide the cars for the tarmac. But 2 of the sport's leading manufacturers are coming new to the competition. And they don't come much newer than Subaru, who made their entry into the World Championship this year. A concerted effort to turn the car into a winner inside 2 years. It's generated a great deal of interest in international rallying. And in the opening round, our 6 drivers will get first-hand experience of the 4-wheel drive Subaru Legacy RS. The other manufacturer, new to the competition, is the most famous of all, the world champions Lancia. Works Lancia Delta Integrales provide the test on stage 2, Gale Rig in Yorkshire, and 5 of the 6 drivers will be getting their first real taste of the car that's been virtually unbeatable in World Championship rallying over the last 3 years. The 6th challenge driver knows what the Lancia is all about, but is getting his first experience of the British forests. Alessandro Fiorio, runner-up in the World Championship last year, is one of 2 new faces on the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge. And here's the other. He missed the first year of the competition, but he's putting his sizable reputation on the line this time. David Llewellyn, British champion for the last 2 years, joins Fiorio, Blomqvist, Malcolm Wilson, Pentti Ricola and Louise Aitken-Walker.
Well, obviously watched it all on the television. We weren't on any of the particular stages, but you can see the excitement and the speed that's involved, obviously, from the television. And just learnt a lot just from talking to people here already, how tight it is. I mean, you're doing a 2-mile stage and seconds are so important. So a mistake, I suppose, is a thing that you don't want. Obviously, driving these different cars, mostly 4-wheel drive, I think, which is better. I mean, the Nova I'm somewhat shaky about because I've never driven front-wheel drive competitively, so don't really know what to expect there. 4-wheel drive, obviously, I know fairly well, so I'm not too nervous about that. But it'll be interesting.
And the Penmachno stage, just outside Betsycoed in North Wales, is an interesting opening test, very fast, and the pair of hairpins just half a mile from the end can be the key to perfecting a very fast run. So a stage where reactions have to be at their sharpest, while at the same time the drivers are handling a car of which none of them have any experience. 4-wheel drive, left-hand drive, and a gearbox with a character of its own.
Yeah, and it comes back on the slant, see? This gear has to come back before it goes on.
Louise Aitken-Walker could afford a smile because the double British champion is due to be the first man down the stage. So for Llewellyn, a practice run which will get him used to the demands of the Subaru.
70, 2 right.
But there was no opportunity to try out that angled gear change into second, and the Subaru power dies. And for Llewellyn and co-driver Brian Thomas, it's a bewildered coast to the finish line. And the pro-drive boss, David Richards.
And smoke out the exhaust. So, yeah, that was what I naturally think. Yeah, just went off the line, lovely, and just went to second gear. And
Right, let's just dip the oil and disconnect the turbo oil feed. You've got some gloves?
No more than the teething problems of a fledgling World Championship team learning as they're going along. And other manufacturers learnt a lot about the car on the Acropolis Rally this year, when it set fastest time on the opening spectator stage. And on the Thousand Lakes Rally in Finland, it claimed 4th overall for Marco Allen. Subaru's World Championship ambitions seem justified. But Back in the forests of Wales, extensive work has been completed and the Subaru Legacy RS is just about ready for 6 drivers to contest the opening stage of the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge. And this is the order they go. So, first to go, double British champion David Llewellyn, the man who, in the Toyota, has dominated British forest rallying over the last 2 years, but now it's the challenge of the Subaru. Llewellyn, co-driver Brian Thomas, poised for the very quick straight that sets the drivers off down this Pen Macno stage.
Two right, and crest, it's open left over crest, 50.
Simple format to the competition. The 6 drivers all get 1 run in the same manufacturer's car, and this is repeated through the 5 stages, and the lowest aggregate time determines the champion.
3 right, 4 left, tightens.
And from the co-driver, you hear the shorthand pace note instructions that get the driver prepared in advance and setting the car up in advance for what's coming up maybe a few hundred yards down the stage.
4 left, tightens.
Now we're into the first landmark down the stage. This is where we'll be able to check and compare times as the competition goes on. Llewellyn threw the opening check in 38 seconds, but now the stage gets very demanding. Downhill, fast, and very twisty.
100.
And Llewellyn there appearing to lock up, sliding into the corner, sliding very, very wide, but he's got away with it. And so important to build up a fast, confident rhythm on sections like this. The Welshman beaten only once in the British forests in the last 2 years.
2 right.
But he's having problems here, gear selection problems, one of his worries before the event started.
And caution.
And it really is an awkward gearbox. That was a mess, and that would have cost him quite a few seconds. Handling things a bit better now, the stage opening up and dropping down in perilous fashion there on the right-hand side. But the driver ignoring it. Quite a bit of work had to be done on the car, the gearbox and the transmission also requiring attention. And that means that the runs are not getting started till early evening. The sun will be getting lower, and that may be a big problem for the drivers still to go. Now Llewellyn into the first of the pair of hairpins, and this is another spot where it's easy to lose time. And we'll get another timing check as he exits the second of these. 1:54, the target he sets, quite tidy through there, kept the power down well, and now it's straight and it's flat, around about 80 to 90 miles an hour all the way to the finish, which is less than a quarter of a mile away. And the British champion setting an opening time at Pen Macno, 2 minutes 11 seconds, and he and co-driver Brian Thomas know that it could have been better.
Well, it seemed to be in gear and then it seemed to come out.
Right.
This really was where the damage was done, just past the halfway point of the stage. The gear change, remember, set at this angle, and Llewellyn has to look down and stir it around a bit, and that could have lost him 4 or 5 seconds.
The gearbox actually jumped out of gear, or it wasn't me putting it in properly. Of course, with left-hand drive, this hand's a bit strong and a bit weak on times, you know, so it did jump out of gear once, but I'm not sure I'll put it in properly, so...
But it's confirmed at 2 minutes 11. We'll only
2
find
minutes
out
11. Yeah, we'll only find
how
out
good
more.
that is in
That's
a moment.
right, yeah. But it was all a bit exciting anyway.
Excitement next for Louise Aitken-Walker, now confirmed as the first women's world champion and well prepared for the demands of this event.
It's like a short sprint event, and the competition, you know, is very serious, and everybody takes it seriously. And you know, I think inside, you know, you get really nervous and worked up. And I suppose last year you learnt to slightly relax, but not that much.
And some machinery which is very strange, very powerful. The Subaru, first of all, is going to be very hard to get used to.
Yeah, it's a new car for everybody, and you know, it's been out this year, the first year, and I think it's going to be exciting to drive, especially on this stage. But it's very fast and some twisty bits, but I'm sure the four-wheel drive will help a bit.
Four-wheel drive is something that Louise Aitken-Walker has only limited experience of. From alongside come the precise tones of her Swedish co-driver Kristina Torner, and this is the combination that's taken the women's world title after a season-long battle with Paola De Martini.
To easy right and easy left. Into easy right, slight left. 50 kings.
Approaching the first time check and a chance to compare Louise with Llewellyn at this point. And Louise is 3 seconds down on Llewellyn. But remember, it's this next section that gave the British champion problems. Louise contested the World Championship with Vauxhall, the first year of the women's competition, and her title was confirmed when Martini opted out of the RAC.
Flat right.
And this run for Louise, well, it's a careful one, a little short on all-out attack, and she doesn't seem to have the momentum to challenge Llewellyn's time. But Louise knows that anything foolhardy could wreck her chances altogether. Perhaps she's saving herself for the cars coming up that she knows that she can perform well in. The Vauxhall and the Ford are maybe her favourites there.
30. Slide left. 30. Easy right narrows. 30. Jump into flat right. 30. Long easy left. 30. Flat left. 50. Turn hairpin right.
Into the first of the hairpins. And a good line through there, kept the power down well.
Left narrows. Post.
And swiftly and pretty neatly through the second, but she's still 3 seconds down. And no chance of making that up, I'm sure, on the final run-in.
Short quick right. 30. Flat left maybe into short quick right. 70.
It's been a respectable opening drive. 2 minutes 16 for Louise Aitken-Walker, and Tina's pretty happy with that.
Yeah, that's good.
A poor start, though, must have robbed her of at least a couple of seconds. Blamed once again on problems with that Subaru gear change.
I'm not used to this gearbox, and I missed second gear and I couldn't find it, and I put it in third and I had to dip the clutch, you know, and you get all ruffled up. But, you know, there's a couple of times where I missed the gear change, but, you know, that's no excuse, that's my fault. You know, I've no four-wheel drive experience. I'm very happy that we're here with maybe 5 seconds behind David. At least we've not done anything stupid and got here, so that'll do us fine.
Good start. Now, the debut on the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge for the Italian Alessandro Fiorio. Works Lancia driver, runner-up in the '89 World Championship. Now, for next year, he's a Ford Works driver, and he gets a taste of that via the motor home computer. But behind the wheel of the Subaru, it's the real thing. His regular co-driver, Luigi Pirolo, alongside him, and it's amazing to think that this is Fiorio's first competitive drive in a British forest. 25 years old, he's a great talent, but his limited experience of a wider range of rally cars makes this a very interesting event for him, and it'd be good to see how he performs. He compares Penn Macno to the terrain for the American Olympus Rally, the World Championship round, in which he was placed second in 1988, so he might be a forest man after all. The first time check will maybe give us a clue. Fiorio into the woodyard, and through that time check, well, just a second outside the time set by David Llewellyn. Fiorio started competing in a Fiat Uno Turbo in 1985. He campaigned a Lancia from 1987, winning the Production Cup that year, and giving perfect support to Mickey Biasion as he won the world title in 1988 and 89. And not insignificant in Fiorio's background is that he's the son of the former Lancia rally boss Cesare Fiorio, who's now the boss of Ferrari's Grand Prix team, Mansell, Prost and all. So motorsport certainly in the blood. Alessandro, or Alex as he's better known in the sport, going pretty well. And you can see how low the sun is getting, nearly sunset on this Welsh hillside, and it may give those later drivers a bit of dazzle, especially on the open parts of the stage. Okay in the trees here. Headlights blazing as he approaches the first of the hairpins. And the technique round there a little cautious, but quick to get the power on. And remember, the second hairpin is also a timing point. And there we see Fiorio is ahead of Llewellyn. He's picked up 2 seconds on that middle section. Now foot hard to the floor down the closing stretch. And Fiorio makes it in 2 minutes 9 seconds, 2 seconds faster than Llewellyn, but he clearly thinks there that he should have pulled out more. But Fiorio heads the field so far. Indications are that a quicker time is on, though, and trying for that, in the dwindling light, Malcolm Wilson, reigning champion Stig Blomqvist, and Pentti Riikola, who wants to improve on last year.
I was quite disappointed about last year, about my own driving, and I guess I wasn't brave enough to take the risk that you need to do in 2 miles, 2.5 miles long, 2 minutes flash, and I wasn't perhaps taking a risk which is needed. I feel the same this year. I'm perhaps too old to do this sort of short sprint events. It's a longer the better.
Pentti Riikola with co-driver John Meadows in the passenger seat.
1, go. 50, right 1 cut. It's a long crest, left 1.
And Pentti talks about being a long-distance man as opposed to a driver for the sprint events, and he proved it after last year's disappointing challenge by promptly going out and winning the 1989 Lombard RAC in the Mitsubishi, the finest win of a long and illustrious career. And now he's even more keen to prove that he can handle these sprint events.
Suddenly, left 6 minus.
Certainly trying hard in that flamboyant style of his, and no doubt that'll be reflected in the time. 37 seconds and 1 second up on the fastest man at that point, which was Llewellyn. Pentti's first World Championship event was in 1973. It took him 16 years to win a World Championship rally, but that British success last year has paved the way for a very competitive Ford drive in this year's RAC. Now down the hill, the Finn isn't going to hold back, and the next 30 seconds could be the key to Pentti setting a very challenging target indeed.
Left 4, he's a left 5, suddenly right 7, suddenly left 6, left 2 minus, quite long, to right 3 minus, and crest right 2, left 4 long, and left 1.
Breathtaking to think that this is a car that Riikola has yet to drive more than 2 competitive miles in. Total confidence, which no doubt he'll demonstrate once again around the hairpins.
50, junction, left 9 hairpin, very narrow at end.
Locked up, but in full control of the second hairpin, and a time 1 minute 49. He's a massive 4 seconds up on Fiorio. And a Riikola with a run that overshadows anything he did in the competition last year, and he's really throwing down the gauntlet to the rest of the field. A time 2:06, 3 seconds quicker than Fiorio, 5 seconds quicker than Llewellyn, and congratulations are in order for that.
No? Oh, I see. Thank you.
Well, I don't know. I didn't do any mistakes, but I think old man like me, I can't really drive any faster. And obviously it's quite easy to drive here because you only have a ditch on the right-hand side. It's just mountain up and left. In Finland we have a ditches both sides. So I feel good, and for car work, very good. It was very easy to drive. So.
Well, here's a man who can also make it look easy. Stig Blomqvist, the former world champion, another former RAC rally winner, starts the defence of his Rally Challenge title. And we join him and co-driver Bjorn Cederborg. They're just short of the first split time. And Stig in 38 seconds, 1 second down on Pentti. Blomqvist, one of the great pioneers of four-wheel drive, totally at home in this four-wheel drive car that's producing something like 280 horsepower, with apparently more to come as Subaru development work continues. The former world champion Marco Alén, he'll be campaigning the car on the RAC, along with one of Britain's top Grand Prix drivers, Derek Warwick. But from what we're seeing here, Blomqvist, I'm sure, would be equally well qualified. Keep an eye on the clock as he chases a Riikola's target of 2 minutes 6 seconds, and a Riikola was through the next split time in 1 minute 49.
Medium höger, mycket svag vänster, mycket svag höger över krön 20, medium höger, 80 över krön, tvär vänster plus, öppnar halvlång och ny för något, mycket svag höger, medium vänster plus 80, hårnål höger. 100.
Storming stuff down the hill. A rather generous line perhaps from Blomqvist at the first hairpin. And he charges his approach to the second. Once again going wide, lucky not to lose it over the edge, but he's spot on Auricula's time, 1:49. Now can he be quicker down the final section? Brave approach down this hill, and Blomqvist can maybe better Auricula's time. But he's equalled it with another time of 2 minutes 6 seconds. So Blomqvist tied for the lead with Pentti Auricula at this point, because there's still one more man to go, and that's Malcolm Wilson, regarded as one of the fastest of Britain's rally drivers. But he was really pegged back in the opening stage of last year's challenge, puncturing early on in the Peugeot. His mistake, he dropped a wheel into the ditch, but he limped through the opening stage and never got back in contention in the overall competition. So determined to avoid the same fate this time, he's got Nicky Grist alongside him, and as we join him in the dusk of Penmacno Forest, well, he's going well. At the first split time, he was the same as Blomqvist, 1 second slower than Auricula.
Left max 70. Okay, right max 40.
Very precise notes from Nicky Grist, who was co-driving for Louise Aiken-Walker last year. Wilson also with a Ford Works contract. He's getting a great chance in the World Championship, but very keen to do something here after a career that hasn't maybe produced the victories that it promised.
60. Hairpin left.
Good line through the hairpins. Misses a gear perhaps there, but a good time, tied for the lead at that second check. Now can he pull out something on the last stretch that'll get him ahead of Auricula and Blomqvist's time of 2:06.
Left max to cut flat right.
It's going to be very tight.
100 over finished. Easy left.
Can't beat the time, but he matches it. 2:06 for Wilson, and good enough for a three-way tie for the lead. Wilson, Auricula and Blomqvist, level pegging then at the end of the first stage. 4 stages still to come, but after last year's opening stage problems, Wilson is just glad to be in contention.
Great, isn't it? It's a different attitude to the next one, that's for sure, than what we had last year.
Set you up for the whole championship now, with Lancia coming next. How do you fancy that?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's nice this year. I mean, a lot of cars that I've never driven before. I mean, never driven this car, never driven the Lancia, and obviously the Nova, so it's looking forward to it.
Impressed with this?
It's a very deceptive car. We've just been discussing it. It feels very light, very stable, and brakes very well, and the engine's very deceptive as well. I think when you first drive it, it doesn't feel too quick, but I think having come to there at sort of 100%, it's quick enough.
Been driven well today. Well done.
Thank you.
From the forests of North Wales to the forests of North Yorkshire, the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge moves on to rallying country that's going to figure strongly in the forthcoming Lombard RAC Rally. And in the shape of the Lancia Delta Integrale, the 6 drivers have a car that's going to figure strongly as well. The chosen stage is the 2.23-mile plunge down Gale rig. Very twisty just after the start. Just before the high-speed finish, there's a jump that can really throw the cars out of shape. The aggregate time, remember, over 5 stages decides the winner, and after the opening stage in the Subaru, a 3-way tie for the lead: Auricula, Blomqvist and Wilson. The others not out of it, especially Alex Fiorio, works driver with Martini Lancia. 10 years of the team that's combined Italian passion with Scandinavian daring to win no less than 7 World Championships.
Figaro, son qua, hey, Figaro, son qua, Figaro qua, Figaro là, Figaro qua, Figaro là, Figaro su, Figaro giù, Figaro su, Figaro giù, blocco tantissimo sotto un fulmine, sono impatto dalla città, dalla città, dalla città, dalla città, dalla città. Abbiamo un Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, abbiamo un Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, fortunatissimo, 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 per verità. Abbiamo un Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, abbiamo un Figaro, bravo, bravissimo, a te fortuna, a te fortuna, a te fortuna, non mancherà. Sono il factotum della città, sono il factotum della città, della città, della città, della città.
They've had their moments. moments, but they've been virtually unbeatable in the World Championship over recent seasons. The 16-valve Lancia Delta Integrale, 290 horsepower, and the first driver to tackle Gale rig, the new women's world champion, Louise Aitken-Walker.
I'll start that stage and I'll not know what's happening to me, because these things are so exhilarating, you know, to drive. And just the experience to have four-wheel drive, you know, it must be a help. So I just drive this thing as best I can.
Louise Aitken-Walker and Tina Turner pass the midpoint of the run in what must be the most challenging car Louise has ever had to drive. Starting first because she was placed 6th after the opening run of 2 minutes 16 in the Subaru. And starting first really can be a disadvantage because the amount of loose gravel on the stage can make things very slippery. The main ambition, though, for Louise is just to hang in there and keep in touch with the rest. Even taking things carefully, up around 85, 90 miles an hour, and not far away from the jump, but the bravest of the rest will be taking absolutely flat out just a little bit later. Louise not quite getting airborne there, but keeping it in line, that's the main thing. And now it's just a short sprint to the finish. That was the co-driver's estimate. Official time, 2:15.
First time I've had a car driving me through this stage, I'll tell you. That was like really exciting. Devastated with the speed and the power.
Now we can see what kind of an effect the car has on the British champion, David Llewellyn. Brian Thomas alongside, and Llewellyn desperately keen to test himself in genuine World Championship machinery. Well, he's getting his chance here. Coming up to the first checkpoint where we can match Llewellyn's progress against that of Louise, and Llewellyn substantially quicker, 5 seconds up at that point. Remember, though, Llewellyn 5 seconds behind the leaders from the opening stage, so he really has got to try hard on a stage that's going to have a lot more grip for the later runners. Going hard through this middle section. No real place for the driver to relax. It's downhill all the way. The second checkpoint coming up now. And 140, well, surprisingly, he hasn't picked up any time on Louise. Now there's a very awkward corner coming up now. It's important to get the line right here. And Llewellyn hit something very, very hard on the inside, and the car got quite a bit out of shape, possibly up on 2 wheels there, and that's upset the rhythm a bit. Rather tentative over the jump. The finish is coming up. Louise's target of 2 minutes 15 seconds. Well, he's 7 seconds inside that. But well, at one point there, he almost put the car in the trees.
Wasn't it good, was it?
No.
Hey?
No.
What was it?
I thought it was about 8.
Oh, that bump had us that time, Bray.
It did, didn't it? Put us right across.
2 minutes 8 seconds, the time for Llewellyn, but here's the moment that frightened the life out of them and possibly cost them a far better time. There's a dip on the inside of the bend just coming up here. And Llewellyn hits it very hard, and it's a moment or two before the car is back on 4 wheels.
We had a bit of a moment there. Just it's before the jump, on a right-hand bend. There's a dip on the inside now. And it just threw the car right up onto 2 wheels and went right onto the outside of the bend and up the outside. And so I'd ease off, get her on the correct side for the jump, which meant easing off and, you know, to take the jump straight so you don't end up in the bushes. So, yeah, we lost a handful, I suppose, 2 seconds perhaps. But there we are, we're here. Just.
So all a bit exciting for David Llewellyn and for Louise Aitken-Walker. Now, in theory, how it should be done. Lancia Works driver Alex Fiorio, second for Lancia in the 1989 World Championship. And you don't have to speak Italian to understand from co-driver Luigi Pirolo that they're going to be trying very, very hard. Just coming into the switchback series of corners, just under a mile into the stage, and Pirolo seemed to be giving the signal for Fiorio to slow down at one point there. Quite understandable. Now coming up here, the gravel stage goes briefly onto tarmac, and this is very easy to get wrong. Fiorio, a quick tweak on the handbrake, and it looks as if he did get it wrong, sliding the tail out, and I'm sure a second or so is gone there, chiefly because it upsets the line so much for the next section.
Occhio, sinistra, 3 meno, terra, non stringere. Subito destra, sinistra, 3 meno, chiude, non stringere.
First checkpoint, remember, Llewellyn was through there in 1 minute 9 seconds. It's coming up now, and Fiorio is a second slower, so although he's going hard, this car perhaps isn't giving him quite the advantage he hoped for. So no doubt all-out attack now down to the second checkpoint, and Llewellyn was through that in 1 minute 40. Once again, speeds hovering around 100 miles an hour. And the next check will be around this corner that's coming up now. And Fiorio has clawed back 2 seconds on that section, 1:39. Next problem for the Italian, heading through the corner that gave Llewellyn problems. Now, with his works experience, he should have the confidence to keep his foot hard down over the jump. 4 wheels off the ground, the car stays in line, and a storming finish here by Fiorio. And just in that short section, he's picked up 2 seconds on Llewellyn and sets the new target of 2 minutes, 6 seconds.
06 is good, but I think they could do less. Because every time you pass it, the road is clean, and so, but it's good.
Loose gravel, still a problem then, but ironically it was the tarmac that cost him most time.
A bit handy, did it? Came off the power a bit, didn't it?
Everything under control, though, as Fiorio attacked that final section. This is how brave the others have to be to better his time of 2 minutes, 6 seconds. So 3 drivers gone, with Alex Fiorio, as expected, setting the standard. But now it's the 3 drivers who are tied for the lead after the first stage of the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge. Pentti Ricola, first of all.
But it looked good, he came out very well.
Yeah, I came out, but I entered very slow.
Wow. Better than too fast.
So the quandary for Pentti is how to handle that tarmac corner. This was Fiorio's approach.
My co-driver and some other co-drivers, we were taking times there, and it's difficult because this is one of those decisions in this junction here, whether you to use a handbrake or not to use a handbrake. I choose to use a handbrake, and I drove earlier in the morning. Alex did it first practice run with a handbrake, and then timed run without handbrake. And the clock told that with the handbrake it was quicker, so I probably will use also the handbrake. So we shall see how it goes.
So the tactics worked out. It's Ricola with co-driver John Meadows out to break the deadlock at the top of the Rally Challenge leaderboard. Ricola, the surprise winner of the 1989 Lombard RAC Rally. He has got a bit of experience with the Lancia on a previous RAC Rally, but nothing perhaps to compare with this works version. Great names that Lancia have taken to the world title. Sandro Munari back in 1977, Juha Kankkunen in 87, Mickey Biasion 88 and 89. And both Kankkunen and Biasion will be driving for the team on the RAC. And Ricola is going well on the first section of the stage. Coming up is where the problems start, though, the tarmac section. Ricola having decided to use the handbrake more than Fiorio did. Now you see the result, brings the back round, and only a little bit tidier than the Italian. Now Llewellyn is fastest so far down this opening part of the stage. 1 minute 9 seconds his time to the first checkpoint. And that checkpoint coming up now. And 1 minute 9 seconds also for Ricola. Well, it was in this middle part of the stage that Llewellyn lost some time, or at least didn't go as well as he could. So it's important that Ricola keeps the power down and keeps it neat and tidy as well. And that's an elusive art which the Finn has mastered down the years. Now second check, Fiorio is the quickest so far at 1:39. And Ricola's got inside that at 1 minute 38 seconds. So now the closing part of the stage is where Fiorio was both quick and brave. Ricola's ahead, but I'm sure he's going to find it tough to stay ahead. he's going to challenge, he must keep the foot down over the jump. And the foot was hard down, but a very heavy landing indeed. Did well to keep control. Now the sprint to the finish for what could be a very good time. 2:06 the target. And he's the fastest. Auricola 2:05, and he's beaten the Lancia Works driver by a second.
Very good, that. Yeah. Much neater.
Yeah. I think there is room to go a little bit quicker in some places. I have a junction there, the service area is, I didn't do that particularly good. But I didn't do very well in practice either, so, so there you are. But some of the jumps perhaps a little bit faster. Over big jump, we were quite a nose-heavy landing, and so it was good, but there was enough weight here inside the car to put it back to the road. But that's part of that. That was quite exciting. That job. Yes. Yeah, I like to see what it looks like in film.
Well, this is how it looked from the inside. Wait for the bang as the car hits the road.
Yeah, I'm very happy to do the similar time as Alex Fiorio does it, because he competes with these cars all the time. And I was very impressed about this car. It's a fairly easy car to drive and very enjoyable, very fast.
So a stern target set by Auricola for Blomqvist and Malcolm Wilson, the other co-leaders at the end of the first stage. 2 minutes 5 seconds or better, the target first of all for Stig Blomqvist. Blomqvist giving the cameraman a bit of a fright as he got a little bit sideways off the start line. A 1984 world champion, and alongside him is Benny Melander, his co-driver, when he finished an excellent 4th in the championship 2 years ago. And Blomqvist, of course, also the reigning champion in the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge. Four-wheel drive and left-hand drive, a familiar combination to the Swede. And interesting to see how he handles that tarmac section that neither Fiorio or Auricola got right. And he seemed a lot straighter, a lot neater, and no doubt a lot quicker. And the first check time might tell us that he's quickest so far through this opening mile. 1 minute 9 seconds, a time for both Auricola and Llewellyn through this section. Timing point is coming up now. And, well, Blomqvist isn't faster, 1 minute 9 as well. He seems to be driving well within himself, so maybe he's got a chance to really challenge Penty for what could be the overall lead. Penty down to the next check in 1:38. That check is now. And Blomqvist has lost time. He's dropped a second behind Auricola. And remembering how Penty went through that last half mile, I think that he's going to find it very, very hard to get that second back. 2 minutes 5 seconds is the time that he's got to beat. That's Auricola's time. Coming up to the jump. And not quite so ambitious there. That 2 minutes 5 seconds looks safe at this point. And Blomqvist is 2:07. He drops into third place behind Fiorio. 1 to go, and that's Malcolm Wilson.
Looking forward to driving the car. I mean, it was nice to get in the car this morning. There's one little tricky bit down there that's a little bit apprehensive about. If you cut the corner too tight, there's the problem where David had his problem. So we'll see how it goes.
Wilson referring to that bump in the track where Llewellyn put the car on 2 wheels.
2, 1, go. 80,
But with barely 10 stage miles on this event, you can't really afford not to attack. And Wilson with co-driver Nicky Grist, out of that 3-way tie for the lead after the first stage in North Wales. And the British driver certainly with the ability to break the deadlock. Britain's top-seeded driver in World Championship rallying.
40.
No Lancia experience, but the stage by this point in the competition should be scrubbed pretty clean. It should potentially be very, very quick.
And flat right of the brow to K, easy left, 30. K, fast K left, long.
Well, it looks as if Wilson is saving most of his caution for the second part of the stage because he's attacking hard at this point. Let's hope he's not attacking too hard with the surface having changed from gravel to tarmac and back to gravel again in just a few yards. But he's round all that very neatly and very possibly quicker than the others.
To left, Max, 40.
Let's remind you of that target, 1 minute 9 seconds for the first part of the stage. A time shared by Llewellyn, Auricola and Blomqvist.
40, easy right.
That checkpoint is here and Wilson is inside the time by a second. Wilson fastest by 1 second. And if he keeps up that form, well, he's the new leader of the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge.
Absolute left, over crest, keep in. Flat left, long,
but so many places you can lose time from now on. Pentti Auricola was fastest down this next section. He was through the next timing check in 1 minute 38.
Cut flat right. 70 over crest. Fast left.
And Wilson has dropped a second in the last half mile. He's now tied with Auricola's intermediate time of 1 minute 38. And once again, remember just how brave and how bold Auricola was down the closing part of the stage. I wonder if Wilson can match that. Is he going to be flat out over the jump? Well, all four wheels were off the ground, but only the clock will tell us how committed he was. 2 minutes 5 seconds, Auricola's target time to beat.
70.
And Wilson punches the air, but he's missed it by a second. Auricola leads the competition by that 1 second.
I think on the asphalt, the really bad downhill, the two really tight Ivan's long fast gear corners. And I went into them to try and be neat, to try and just keep the car straight and not move around too much. And I think maybe just slow down a little bit. Very neat round, and it was nice, but I think in this sort of competition you've got to be a little bit more ambitious, but if you just step over it, it's very easy to sort of half spin and lose that vital second. And maybe the jump a little bit. I mean, Nicky said absolute crest, and he was sort of knocking me to say, come on, you know, it's absolute, but I think you've got to be very brave. I know I watched Pentti over there and he didn't lift, but I'm afraid if I can't see the road, there's got to be a little bit of apprehension there.
Understandable apprehension, but Auricola got away with it. And as a result, he won the stage from Malcolm Wilson, who shared second place with the works driver, Alex Fiorio. Just 1 second settled it. In round 3, the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge is raising the dust in Wycombe Forest. Once again, a Yorkshire stage. And once again, it's a stage which will be figuring in the Lombard RAC Rally. 1.98 miles long, high speed and downhill from the start, then up one side of a valley and down the other. And exiting this corner before the high-speed swoop to the finish can make or break a good run. Different manufacturers provide the cars for each stage. Lowest aggregate time decides the winner, and it's Pentti Auricola ahead by just 1 second so far. 2 of the 5 stages completed. And here's the car for the Wycombe stage, the Vauxhall Nova GTE. A real giant killer in recent seasons, light and nimble and front-wheel drive, which will really test the versatility of our international drivers. Dave Metcalf is the works driver with the Nova. This was on the British Championship round in Yorkshire earlier this year. Even the experts get it wrong, but Metcalf is the Nova expert. David Llewellyn isn't. Here in Wycombe, he's facing his first competitive run in a front-wheel drive car.
Well, Louise should be more at home in this, anyway.
Yes, first to go will be Louise Aitken-Walker. Now, Louise is also a Vauxhall works driver, and we should pay tribute to her achievement with the team this season. Louise winning the first Ladies World Championship. But dominating the season came a now famous accident in Portugal when her Astra plunged off a cliff and sank 20 feet into a lake. By rights, Louise and co-driver Tina Turner should never have survived.
It was an awful experience, but you know, it was an accident, and accidents do happen in motorsport. I think the unfortunate thing was that it rained halfway through the stage, and we were on dry tyres, and you know, to come down a hill that's very slippy surface anyway, we just couldn't stop and just slowly went off the edge. But when we hit the water, you know, I was convinced that we hit it feet first, but when I saw it on the video, you know, I couldn't believe that it was because the water just all rushed into the car, and it felt as though it was coming up through the chin. But the frightening thing was that, you know, when you hit the cliff all the way down, it takes the wind, you know, knocks you a bit, and then to land on water, because when your accident stops, you know, you just sigh relief that you've come to a halt. And I think the shock then was actually the water, and to take a breath, it was impossible. And I think, you know, it slowed down and it gave you time to think, right, seat belts. You know, I tried to get through the screen, but the screen was there, and it's really funny feeling down underwater. And I opened the window, and Tina had gone out the back. So, you know, you get down the window, and I thought, God, I'm going here. I'm getting out. And then you see about 20 foot above, you think, you know, just a shimmer of light, because it's very dark down there. And you think, oh, I'm never going to make it. And it was just, you know, physically and mentally, you were just... Once we got to the top of the water, we just couldn't move. We held onto the rocks, and somebody had to come and get us.
Well, it's a tough, risky sport, but you don't expect it to be quite that perilous. But Louise and Tina not only survived, but they gave a very spirited performance in the next round in Corsica. But that was in the Astra. This is the Vauxhall Nova, and in the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge, they've got a bit of work to do. 11 seconds adrift of the field after the rounds in the Subaru and the Lancia. This is the first of the cars in which Louise might expect to claw back some of the time. She's down through the first part of the Wycombe stage, which drops down that hillside, briefly onto an awkward tarmac section, and now she's starting to climb up the valley side to the hairpin at the highest part of the stage.
Easy right, 30. 90 right.
The Nova GTE, now known as the GSI, 1600cc engine producing something in excess of 150 horsepower. Vauxhall out of international rallying next season, sadly, but the Nova will still be a big force in the domestic championship.
Absolute left, 70 kings. 90 left on crest. 30.
Through what will be the second of the timing points via which we'll gauge the pace of the later runners. And now it's downhill all the way, just under a mile to the finish. It's steeper than the last stage, Gale Rig, but with a couple of tight kinks that really have to be got just right.
Absolute right. 50. Crest to medium left levels.
Coming up, perhaps the most difficult downhill part of the stage to judge. The drivers will be trying as hard as possible here.
Side left. 30.
The finish coming up now.
Crest over, slight right, and there we go. 221.
And Louise setting that opening target of 2 minutes 21.
Maybe misjudged that corner with a bad dip, because if you get too far and deep into the corner, it's going to throw the car. But we got into the slippy stuff because the road's not quite clear yet, and just slid wide.
Louise referring to the corner about a third of the way into the stage, where we've got the first of our timing points. Bad bump on the inside, and Louise scattering the rubble as she scrabbles for grip on the way out. So once again, the early runners fighting the problem of loose stones on the stage. Frustrating because they'll be sweeping those stones clear and making it easier for the later drivers. But this is David Llewellyn, the British champion, on the stage now. A little bit cautious down the opening part of the stage. As I say, front-wheel drive, an almost completely new experience, and the whole driving technique has to be revised. Cautiously through the tarmac section, first timing point. That makes Llewellyn equal with Louise, and once again drifting wide on that loose stuff. Now Llewellyn starting the climb up the valley, and this is where he'll be conscious that he hasn't got the power of the Subaru or the Lancia or his familiar Toyota. That'll be the car for the next round as we head to the first tarmac stage in the Isle of Man.
Early, long 5 left. And long 1
And I don't think he'll be too happy with the way he handled that series of corners that brings him out onto the valley side. Llewellyn started first in the Subaru, started second in the Lancia, hasn't had the best of the conditions, and as a result he was 8 seconds behind the competition leader Pentti Ricola after the first 2 stages, and needs to start pulling out some good times. Second checkpoint, and he's now got a 1 second lead over Louise. Brian Thomas, his co-driver. Let's see if they can take their courage in both hands down the hill. 2:21 is the time to beat so far.
1 right and 2 left, narrows late, open right 70, crest into 5 left down. Caution early, 2 right, narrows, jump, open left, and 4 left opens. 30,
fighting the wheel hard down the closing section, and he finishes with a time of 2:19, 2 seconds better than Louise.
Just lost a little bit on that uphill
Yeah, I got
junction.
I got 19 on the watch.
Have you?
Felt good.
And 2:19 confirmed as the time. Here's the point that Llewellyn felt a second or so went. Just losing momentum, scrabbling a little. And momentum and rhythm all important as the stage has that long climb just after this point. Advice is always readily given in this competition. Llewellyn is disappointed, but Fiorio is next. And Alex Fiorio on his first trip to the Yorkshire forests, and he knows a bit about front-wheel drive. Fiorio won the Fiat Uno Championship in Italy and campaigned front-wheel drive Fiat Unos in the World Championship before moving on to Lancias and most recently the Works Martini Lancias. Always with co-driver Luigi Pirolo at his side.
Subito sinistra, uno, chiude lunga.
Fiorio only 4 seconds behind the leader Auricola after the first two stages, so he's well in touch and will be looking to stay in touch.
Subito, occhio a sinistra, uno meno, chiude fondo, bivio. Per basso a destra, 3 più. Subito a sinistra, uno, lunga, tardi, chiude. Subito tornante destro.
Now this is where the stage changes from gravel to tarmac briefly, so control and front-wheel drive confidence all important.
Uno meno, chiude. Bivio, fondo, occhio.
First time check coming up. And Fiorio is fastest by 1 second. 1 second up on Llewellyn. And you'd have noticed the cleaner, tighter line he took through that last corner. Not so much debris thrown up, a sure sign that he's quicker. It's a light car, it's a responsive car, and a lot more action on the steering wheel for the drivers. And the Nova just getting away from Fiorio a little there. Now on the long climb up the valley side, and Fiorio would need to make a really big mistake not to be faster than Llewellyn. He's no doubt disappointed he didn't pull out more of an advantage in the last round in his own car, the Lancia. Fiorio equal with Wilson, a second behind Auricola in the Lancia. And here is the second check. And he's now got a 2-second advantage over Llewellyn. Now, the section to be brave, and Alex Fiorio used to be a downhill ski champion back home in Italy before switching to rallying, and it's the technique and the bravery of the downhill racer that's required now.
Uno meno, chiude. Subito basso destra, 3 più, taglio.
2 minutes 19 is the target set by Llewellyn, and Fiorio's pace down the hill might have pulled out another second on the British champion. But it's 2:16, a 3-second lead for Fiorio. Good time, but there once again Fiorio thumps the wheel, shakes his head. Somewhere, obviously, he feels it could have been better. Hard to see where. So it may be worth checking that middle tarmac section of the run. Coming up to the first time check, and the bumper camera suggesting he got it a bit sideways. The Italian with that upright, urgent style. Neat work on the handbrake, neatly through a difficult section. Fastest so far, but not satisfied.
Okay, very good. Yeah, but what was the time? 16.
2:16, not a bad time, enough to give him the lead at the halfway stage, but with the 3 overall Rally Challenge leaders still to go. Just 2 seconds are separating Blomqvist, Wilson and Auricola in that overall competition. Blomqvist here is first to go.
10, 5, 4, 3,
Benny Melander is the co-driver.
1, kör!
And this should be interesting. The man who started his career 17 years ago in Saabs, then pioneered four-wheel drive by the Audi Quattro in the early 80s, winning the world title on the way. But what a front-wheel drive, well, we shall see in the next couple of minutes. You may remember in the Rally Challenge last year, Blomqvist on the self-same stage, stunningly quick in setting the fastest time in the Toyota. Not the same power, of course, in the Nova as in last year's Toyota, and perhaps with front-wheel drive, not the same lines either. But Blomqvist looks quick anyway. He begins to head down onto the tarmac section. The first checkpoint some 200 yards away, and Alex Fiorio was the fastest through that in 58 seconds.
Tvär höger, vägskäl, gupp.
And Blomqvist gets inside that target by a second faster than Fiorio, 2 seconds faster than Louise Aitken-Walker and David Llewellyn. A rock-steady line and the power hard on, just feeding the car into the tricky network of corners before the climb up the side of the valley. Remember, Stig Blomqvist overall at 4 minutes 13 seconds, just 2 seconds behind the challenge leader Pentti Ricola, and it looks as if he's giving Ricola and Malcolm Wilson quite a target here at Wycombe. Second split time will show if he's stretched his lead over Fiorio. And he's pulled out another second up the hill. Blomqvist fastest by 2 seconds. Mind you, it was on that middle section that the Italian felt that he'd lost time, but he was very, very quick down the hill. Let's see if Blomqvist can match him down this final section. Just a little bit hesitant into the first of those left-handers near the finish. And Blomqvist might have lost time down the hill. But at 2 minutes 15, he's still the fastest so far.
Yeah, we did it just. It's quite difficult because you haven't been in such a light car for a long time, so you always brake too early.
Worth looking back at those closing moments with Blomqvist Nova, so used to handling the weight of a Quattro or a Cosworth, just checked a little too soon. But despite that, a decent speed to the finish, and at 2:15, clearly the fastest.
Fast left long.
Now already on the stage and going with some commitment. Malcolm Wilson placed second overall, 1 second ahead of Blomqvist, 1 second behind Ricola. So he's got to match Blomqvist's time to at least keep second place.
Medium right.
Now here's the point that we check how he's going, and he's right up with Blomqvist at that first checkpoint. Both drivers 57 seconds down through the first section.
120 over crest. Right, Max, 30.
Wilson, the penultimate driver to go in this forest section of the competition. The vast acres of Forestry Commission land, a great recreation area, and also home ground to British rallying, for which motorsport in general is always appreciative.
80.
Forestry Commission land is where Cumbria's Malcolm Wilson learnt his craft.
Flat left, 120 over pink.
Second check is approaching. Blomqvist to here was 1 minute 41 seconds.
30.
But Wilson has dropped a second behind. Now he was rather scrabbling for grip on the exit to that hairpin, so maybe more time went there.
Flat right over crest.
Blomqvist drove superbly up the side of the valley, lost time on the steep drive down, so maybe there is room for Malcolm Wilson to get that second back.
Flat right, 80 over crest. Medium left.
Driving very, very hard, absolutely flat out, and just look at the work that Wilson is doing on the wheel. Fighting the car, balancing the car.
Flat left, long, opens.
2:15 to beat.
Flat right, long, hair.
But he's not made it.
Stop. 16.
No, stick to the 15, didn't he?
Second slower than Blomqvist.
Traps on that top corner.
And Wilson very, very motivated, very angry at that. He knows there was time lost back there on the hill. He was fast up the valley side, but the time went as he was lining himself up the drive down the valley. The back drifted wide, and he struggled to get the car back in line.
We just drifted out onto the soft, sandy stuff. And it was a long corner, long, tight corner. And if you get into that stuff at the front of the drive car, it's very, very difficult to get the traction. And we definitely lost a good couple of seconds in that particular piece.
So to the Rally Challenge leader, Pentti Ricola with co-driver John Meadows. And Pentti, last year's Lombard RAC Rally winner, leads by a second from Malcolm Wilson.
50, crest 1.
And just looking back at that last run, part of Wilson's frustration was that he now knows he's allowed Stig Blomqvist to pull level with him in the overall competition, both on a total of 6 minutes 28. Now, if Ricola is going to stay in front of them, he needs a time no worse than 2 minutes 16 seconds down this stage.
To crest right 4, tightens quite badly.
Looking as if he had to correct things a little there. Now keep an eye on the clock. 57 seconds is the best time so far down the first section of the stage, and that came from Stig Blomqvist and from Malcolm Wilson.
Suddenly left 6 long. To right 7.
onto the tarmac with the checkpoint some 200 yards away, matching the pace of Blomqvist and of Wilson.
To crest right one.
An equal fastest. Auricola, the third driver to record 57 seconds through there. Now an even rhythm is required through the network of corners at the foot of this hill. Long climb to come.
Into junction, right 7.
And at the top of the hill, Blomqvist was fastest at 1 minute 41. Wilson was a second slower. Auricola with Vauxhall experience via the Astra GTE in the British Championship. The Nova GTE is now the spearhead of Vauxhall's effort on the British scene, and how impressive Dave Metcalf has been in the Open Championship.
Junction left 7, tightens and long.
1:41 the time to look for at the top of the hill. And somehow Auricola has lost 2 seconds to Blomqvist, a second to Wilson. And he really might be pushed now to retain his lead in the challenge itself. 2:15 or better is the time he needs to win the stage. 2:16 is what he needs to stay ahead in the overall competition.
90, left 7. Into right 4 over crest. And left 4 minus quite long.
And really trying hard toward the end of the stage, but it's 2:16. Blomqvist wins the stage, but Auricola stays ahead in the competition.
2:16.
One mistake, really. I was in going to the tarmac right hairpin. And because in practice I went to the first gear. And I thought that maybe I can do it with the second gear. Proper run. And I tried with the second gear. And I was already committed to the corner. I realized it's not going to go through the second, so I had to go to the first gear. I had a bit of understeer there, so we perhaps lost the second. So that makes me try extra hard the rest of the stage, and perhaps that helped in that way. We had a quite nice moment there coming here. Total control, but I wouldn't like to go any faster.
Stig Blomqvist, last year's challenge winner, gets his first outright stage victory on this year's competition. Auricola, Fiorio and Wilson tied for second, and David Llewellyn and Louise Aitken-Walker proving once again that the early runners in the competition perhaps get the worst of the conditions in the forest. So perhaps they'll be glad to say goodbye to the dust and the gravel as the challenge crews now head to the Isle of Man. Very, very fast tarmac stages for the Toyota and the Ford Cosworth. Leaving behind the choking dust of the British forest, the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge moves to the clear air of the Isle of Man for 2 tarmac stages to decide the title. And we're in the National Glen of Tholty Will, a rural backwater, but an established and challenging rally stage for the Toyota Celica GT4. 2.54 miles, very, very fast opening section, and then essentially a hill climb, with the manner in which the drivers handle that series of hairpins the important element. All very tense on the leaderboard as we attempt to find rallying's all-rounder. All 3 forest stages are gone, and Pentti Auricola leads by just 1 second from Malcolm Wilson and Stig Blomqvist. But this stage and this car should at last give David Llewellyn a chance to make a real impact on the competition. Llewellyn is currently placed 5th overall, but this is the car in which he's been almost unbeatable. The Toyota Celica GT4 has taken him to the British title for the last 2 seasons.
Fantastic car to drive. It's by far the easiest 4-wheel drive car I've driven. It's got a very nice torque band on the engine, very torquey engine, so you can let the power come down. It does obviously have a certain amount of turbo lag, which is a lack of power when you take your foot off the throttle in a corner. So you have to use left foot braking to compensate that, to keep the turbo spinning. The 4-wheel drive system, you can actually vary torque from front to rear, which enables you to set the car up to drive like a front-wheel drive car or a rear-wheel drive car, whichever you prefer. There's quite a lot to understand, and you have to understand how it all works, because at the start there's so many knobs and brakes, balance and this transmission balance. It took a while to understand it, and when I first got in the car I thought this thing's like a pig. I mean, it's terrible to drive. But once I understood it and could get everything set the way I wanted to, it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed driving the car.
You're driving these right hookers now, see? You're too strong with your left hand.
Louise Aitken-Walker trying to ignore all the technical complexities of the car. Co-driver Tina Turner concentrating on the job in hand as well. Louise placed 6th overall, so first to head down this 4th stage of the competition.
30, quick right, 30, left, 30.
This opening mile and a half, flat and fast, bravery the key early on, skill and handling ability the ingredients for the second half of the stage. A reminder that the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge takes 6 of the sport's top drivers. Each drives 5 of the cars currently prominent on the international scene over 5 stages, and they provide tests over gravel and tarmac. The lowest aggregate time over those 5 stages decides the winner. And Louise, this year, the first ever ladies world champion in the sport, and she's driving the car that has taken Carla Sainz of Spain to victory in the overall World Rally Championship.
Easy right and flat left. 30.
Louise currently 14 seconds adrift in the competition, and her limited four-wheel drive experience isn't going to do much to retrieve the situation here. But as always, she'll be trying very hard. Now at the end of this opening section, the stage comes off the side of the hill to burst through that tight, quick left and right over the bridge, and then the driving starts in earnest, through a series of hairpins, and we'll see how Louise copes here. Climbing up the hill, so all important to keep the revs going. And what kills it is to miss gears like that. Louise really stirring around to find something, and that's a shame because a couple of seconds would have gone there.
And open side left. 30. Flat left 70. Medium
The stage now climbs all the way to the finish, so if Louise can keep the power down, there's still a chance of a decent time.
Open side left 30. Jump to the grid 30.
Coming up here, the jump, the cattle grid. That'll be the second of 2 timing points to check the progress of later runners, and for the record, Louise through that in 1 minute 52. Now this is the first right-hand drive car of the competition so far, and familiarity with the car is such an advantage in this competition, and that's why we're expecting great things of David Llewellyn, who'll be the next driver to go. Louise with a time of 2 minutes 12 seconds. And that's a time that could have been so much better if Louise could have found the right gear at the right time. But this Toyota gearbox is difficult to get used to, and the others may struggle as well.
And if I came out the hairpin properly, it wouldn't have been a problem. You know, when a driver gets annoyed with themselves, you know, that's...
Yeah.
You never really think much, and you think, oh, the gears are going to go in. And then when I missed, and then I went to 5th, and then I went to 1st, and then I managed to get to 3rd. But I would say David will show us the way to go up that hill, and because he knows the car, you know.
So here is David Llewellyn with co-driver Brian Thomas.
30.
And he should be quicker than anyone else, and how keen he is to be just that after a disappointing time in the forest that's left him 5th overall, 7 seconds behind 4th place man Alex Fiorio. Now it's over this opening section that Llewellyn's determination will show itself.
2 right tightens. Long open left 70. Short 3 left tightens. Open left over crest into long open left, absolute right 100. Caution, long 2 right tightens narrows, and open left 130. Open right 50. 2 right tightens, and open left over crest into long open right 50. Long 2 right narrows 100. 5 left narrows into 5 right tightens.
A narrow but fast road, speeds of around 130 miles an hour.
Open left.
And Llewellyn only appeared to lift off at the real minimum as he flicked it left and right over the bridge and up the hill, already 4 seconds quicker than Louise Aiken-Walker.
Open left 70.
The Welshman not appearing to miss a beat through the tight corners at the start of the climb. Now on the British Championship, Llewellyn has been most effective in this car in the forest. He won every forest round during the 1989 season, but he's had notable tarmac success as well and tied up the 1990 British Championship with his victory on the Ulster Rally in August. He looked impressive on the practice run, and he looks impressive now.
Crest, open left over grid 30. 2 right.
Second
70.
checkpoint shows him to be now 8 seconds up on Louise, and surely he's now heading to a quite unbeatable time. It's hard to see how anyone is going to be quicker than this.
3 right, narrow plate into 4 left, 200.
Time of 2 minutes 3 seconds for Llewellyn, faster than Louise by 9 seconds.
A bit smoother that time, wasn't it?
I got 03 again.
03 again. It was a bit smoother though. It was a bit
smoother.
safer.
It was safer.
It was
yeah.
a bit safer.
Yeah.
On my practice run, I was only a second slower, but my real run, timed run, was a little bit cleaner, a little bit tidier. Practice run was a bit exciting in a few places.
What a target Llewellyn set. 2 minutes 3 seconds. And now on the stage is Alex Fiorio. Fiorio will need a time of under 2 minutes 10 seconds to prevent Llewellyn taking over 4th place in the competition. And he's certainly not on target for that in the opening part of the stage. Down to the bridge and the first timing point, and Fiorio is a massive 6 seconds down on Llewellyn's drive to that point. He's slower than Louise as well. The Italian is losing a substantial amount of time on this run. Gear selection problems, what he's suffering from, and if that's the case, he could well suffer further up the hill. You'd have thought that Fiorio, with his four-wheel drive Lancia experience and his tarmac experience as well, might have had the qualifications to do well on this stage, but he's struggling. Of course, right-hand drive might also be a big problem to Fiorio. He's had few opportunities to drive right-hand drive competitively before. Second check, and he's now 12 seconds behind Llewellyn, and that means he must surely drop behind him in the overall competition. Fiorio likely to drop down into 5th place. And he comes in with a time of 2 minutes 13 seconds behind Llewellyn, 4 seconds slower than Louise. It looked quick, but 2:16, where do you feel the time went?
I lose the time with the gearbox. I miss 4 or 5 times the gear, and I can't drive right and drive in two times and go fast.
Was that going up the hill?
Yeah, I was going up a hill, and also before I arrived here, I had one time missing.
Fiorio struggles then with the gearbox and a wide range of performances in the opening 3 runs, but Llewellyn's time of 2 minutes 3 seconds is going to take some beating from the last 3 to go, the 3 overall leaders in the competition. Stig Blomqvist, tied with Malcolm Wilson for 2nd place, is first of all.
I'm looking forward to it a lot, but okay, the steering wheel is on the wrong side. It can be some interesting thing, but okay, I've been driving the Toyota a little bit last year here and then on the Race of Champs at Nürburgring, so I've been in the car a bit, but not much. You have to use the gearbox quite a lot because it's tight corners and fast speed and then back to tight corners. You have to go through the box a couple of times, and that's maybe the problem.
And Blomqvist has come through that first check in a time that will be a bit disappointing for him, 5 seconds down on Llewellyn. The important thing for him is how his rivals for the overall title go. That's Wilson and Auricola. Blomqvist was talking rather modestly about his previous experience in the car. He won the Toyota round in the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge last year with a blistering drive in Wycombe Forest, and then was also behind the wheel of a Toyota, among other cars, when he won that Race of Champions at the Nürburgring. All of which should be a help here. He was suggesting right-hand drive could also be a problem, this being David Llewellyn's car, prepared by Toyota GB for the British Championship. Second check, and a time of 1:51, 7 seconds down on the quickest so far, and that really is disappointing for the former world champion. Tied for 2nd place before this, only 1 second behind the leader, but it's hard to imagine that Malcolm Wilson or Pentti Auricola won't carve a chunk of time off that. 2 minutes 11 seconds for Blomqvist. He only manages to keep 3rd place overall by 2 seconds from Llewellyn.
That's no problem, Benny, is it?
So could the Rally Challenge have come down to just 2 men, this being the first of them, Malcolm Wilson, getting co-driver Benny Melander's view of Blomqvist's drive. And Stig must know that his chances of retaining the title are gone, but Wilson isn't overconfident.
The hairpins are very critical. You know, if you do get the hairpins wrong, you can obviously lose a good 1 or 2 seconds. And especially probably the gear changes going up the hill there as well, they're very critical. You know, you need to be up to maximum speed as soon as possible. So if you miss a gear change going up the hill, I think that's going to be quite crucial as well.
The one before, around the wall, so the grid isn't flat.
No, there's one of them, a couple of them, isn't it?
There's a couple of them, isn't it? It's amazing, isn't it?
And Malcolm Wilson just looking for reassurance from co-driver Nicky Grist of where he can keep his foot down, where he must lift off. The co-driver navigator with a big responsibility over these short stages.
3, 2, 1, go!
Off they go, Malcolm Wilson and Nicky Grist, second overall in the challenge, but only 1 second adrift of Pentti Ricola.
Late flat right, 20. Flat left, keep in.
And Wilson said before the start that despite the disappointing times from Blomqvist and indeed for Fiorio, he'd be looking for a time of around 2 minutes 6 seconds. And if he could manage that, then he'd have a really great chance of pushing Pentti hard for the overall title. So 2 minutes 6 seconds is the figure that he's got in mind. But down to this first check, the time of 51 seconds by David Llewellyn is the best so far.
Flat left, 100. Absolute right, 50. Absolute right, 30. Flat left of a crest, 20. Flat right long crest, 30. Flat right long.
The kind of section that the co-driver keeps his head down and just yells flat and absolute and hopes to goodness the driver gets it right.
20.
Wilson has gone bravely so far, 1 minute exactly. Just 1 second slower than Llewellyn. Possibly on target for that 2 minutes 6 seconds. The rhythm and gear selection, all important up the hill.
60 over kick. Flat right, 20. Flat left of a crest, 30. Left match of a crest.
And how well Malcolm Wilson is going. A driver, we've said it before, who's never quite delivered the big results that his enormous talent deserves. But he's on course for something here if he can keep up this kind of pace.
Flat right. Over crest, 100. Flat left, 50. Flat left of a jump, 70.
Now approaching the second check. And that gives him a time of 1:47, down by only 3 seconds on Llewellyn. So maybe he is putting in a time that's really going to put the pressure on the challenge leader, Pentti Ricola.
Late cut flat right. Absolute left, open for the crest.
Up to the finish, and that target of 2:06 is what our watch says. But they must wait for official confirmation of that.
Brilliant.
Thank you, mate. Do we get 6?
Yeah.
Oh! I must say our notes weren't absolutely correct. There's a few places we had flat, and I can definitely tell you that they weren't.
Where are we laying the blame here?
Oh, it's definitely the blame with me, that's for sure. But there's a few places that are not flat. We had marked as flat, that's for sure. We sort of clipped the grass on a couple of places.
And here's a couple of moments coming up to the finish where Malcolm Wilson and Nicky Grist were pushing it to the real extremes.
Late cut flat right. Absolute left, open to the crest. 150 over finish to stop.
But the job is done, and done very well. Now it's for a Ricola to work out where you can go fast and where you can lose time on this demanding stage.
The wheel and the thing is just like a snake.
Blomqvist working out where he went wrong, and Ricola was paying close attention, as well he might. The challenge leader needing to match Wilson's time to stay in front.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Superbly off the start line, and Ricola sometimes gives an overly laid-back impression, but he's a driver who really has taken on a special new determination after his success on the Lombard RAC rally last year.
Left side crest, 150. Right 2 short. 100.
Ricola with a direct line and a committed pace through this opening section. The pace notes strikingly more concise from John Meadows. And Ricola needing a time of 2 minutes 6 seconds to preserve his 1 second lead over Wilson in the competition.
To left 1 and right 1.
Now this stage is a familiar one from the Manx International Rally, but don't confuse it with the TT course on the Isle of Man. The bike action on the island very separate from the rally venues, but the Isle of Man remains one of the great centres for motorsport in general.
To right 6.
First check. Now this is important, and Ricola is 59 seconds, and that's a second up on Wilson, same time as Llewellyn. So it really is turning into a battle royal between these two. One stage still to go. That's in the Ford Sierra Cosworth, once again on this Tholte Will stage.
Right one.
And a misgear there for Auricola, very similar to what happened to Louise at pretty much the same point in the stage. And she reckons she lost 2, maybe 3 seconds. I wonder how hard that might have hit Auricola. But just looking ahead once again to that one remaining stage in the Ford Sierra Cosworth on Tholte Will, and it's hard to anticipate whether it will be Auricola or Wilson who might have the advantage there. Both have Ford commitments and contracts. Both will be driving for Ford on the forthcoming Lombard RAC. But one thing is for sure, there won't be much separating them as they come into the final stage. And that final time check, 1:47, dead level with Malcolm Wilson. So the question is, as Auricola heads to the finish, not can he beat Llewellyn's supreme target of 2 minutes 3 seconds for stage victory, but can he make that 2 minutes 6 seconds to keep him ahead overall? And the clock stops at 2:06, almost creeping onto 2:07, but no tenths of a second in this competition, and Penty continues to lead the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge.
Maybe just 2:06.
I must admit that, and I have to tell the truth because we got in-car cameras too to show it, but...
we'll see everything.
So instead of putting third gear on from second gear in the uphill, very steep uphill, I managed to get it fifth gear. That wasn't so good. I know the engine is powerful, but not that powerful, and so...
And that would have cost you what, do you reckon?
Well, I have to then try to get to third, of course, which was my original intent, but it now went to the first gear. So when, of course, that time we were going by quite slowly. So I had to go to second, third. So I think that climb I lost probably perhaps about 3 seconds. And then the last sort of bad left-hand bend, it's a third gear corner. I tried to do it with fifth gear. I was trying to get third gear, but it went to fifth gear. That wasn't so clever.
All of which suggests that what you did on the rest of the stage must have been tremendous stuff.
Oh, yes, it's amazing what you can do with a little bit of luck.
No luck about David Llewellyn's run. At last, he proves his class on the competition, and he certainly made his Toyota experience count, winning the stage by a clear 3 seconds. But tied for second are Auricola and Wilson, and it's between these two now for the title of the sport's top all-rounder. The final round, then, of the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge, and the title is once again to be decided amid the leafy glades of Tholte Will, here on the Isle of Man, one of the national glens. And the Ford Sierra Cosworth is the chosen weapon. Once again, 6 of the sport's top drivers will tackle the 2.54-mile stage with its high-speed opening mile, and then that climb up the hill with its series of hairpins that caught out so many drivers in the last round in the Toyota. And realistically, the title lies between 2 drivers, Penty Auricola and Malcolm Wilson. They'll be the last to go. Just 1 second separates them after 3 stages in the forest and 1 on tarmac. In the forest, not unexpectedly, Penty Auricola, the Lombard RAC Rally winner, has reigned supreme. A superb fastest time in the World Championship Works Lancia put him into the lead in the competition, where he's remained. But that overall lead has never been more than just 1 second.
Left side. Jump 1 minus.
On the last stage here at Tholte Will, Malcolm Wilson kept up the pressure at the wheel of the Toyota. Taking every risk over the closing stretch of the stage, Wilson was looking for a time in the region of 2 minutes 6 seconds, which he knew would really keep the pressure on Auricola for the final day.
2:06.
And when that was confirmed by the timekeepers, Wilson knew that it was a drive that gave him a great chance of a long-awaited international success.
Do we get 6? Yeah. Oh! Great stuff.
It's Wilson versus Auricola then, but the final day's action for all the crews in this event, which has ranged from the forests of North Wales and North Yorkshire before its climax here on the Isle of Man. The search for the sport's top all-rounder. Now placed 6th overall so far, so first onto the stage, this is Louise Aitken-Walker, the ladies' world champion. Difficult event this for Louise with her lack of four-wheel drive experience, but the Ford Sierra Cosworth is rear-wheel drive. She's far more familiar with that. Starting the climb up the hill, we've seen the crews compete in the Subaru, the Lancia, the Vauxhall Nova, the Toyota Celica GT4. Identical machinery for each of the drivers, and all on fresh Pirelli tyres as well. All important on the tarmac, where a short stage like this can really take its toll. And Louise taking the tightest possible line there, running 2 wheels up the bank. She didn't lose anything, but she could have lost a lot. And she's really going very hard. Louise Aitken-Walker, she's 17 seconds behind Alex Fiorio, who's in 5th place, but she'll be keen to avoid bringing up the rear on this final stage. just coming back to tyres, they're not such a vital facet on a sprint event, but for events like the Lombard RAC Rally, drivers and co-drivers have to become experts on tread patterns and compounds, and manufacturers like Pirelli have to come up with a version for every eventuality. And here on the Isle of Man, they're on hand-cut racing tyres, street-legal versions of racing tyres. Now at the end of the stage.
2:12.
And Tina Turner hopes for a time of 2:12, but it's rounded up to 2:13. One moment of excitement for Louise, cutting things a little fine on this left-hander, but she got away with it.
I think maybe the steering is maybe not so precise now, just misjudged the corner a bit and hit the bank a bit. There's nothing to worry about. It was going uphill, not coming down, thank goodness. It didn't seem anything in the car, but the cameraman stood back a bit.
Alex Fiorio now, who just couldn't get used to this stage in the Toyota. He threw away a massive amount of time with missed gear changes and handling problems up the hill. And here he's having more problems today. 6 seconds down on Louise at the first checkpoint over that bridge. And this will be especially disappointing for him because Fiorio is the new Ford Works driver for the 1991 season. And it's hard to see where precisely he's losing the time. It's left-hand drive, which is familiar to him, not a hard gearbox to get used to, but he's still dropping time in a big way. The runner-up in the World Championship in 1989, Fiorio's best performance on the challenge was second equal with Malcolm Wilson in his own car, the Lancia Integrale, on Gale rig. He was 4 seconds behind the field up Salty Will in the Toyota, and it looks as if he's having a similar disappointment here, although his 5th place overall ahead of Louise Aitken-Walker should be safe. Having said that, he's 7 seconds behind Louise now through that second checkpoint, and this is a run that he'll be keen to forget. And certainly expect more dynamic drives than this from Fiorio in the Ford in months to come. 2 minutes, 21 seconds for Fiorio, and he's slower than Louise Aitken-Walker by 8 seconds. So the leaderboard, unhappy reading for Alex Fiorio, tense reading for Pentti Ricola, the leader by a second who'll be last to go. But David Llewellyn now, the British champion. He came back to form in this competition with his stunning drive to take fastest time in the Toyota. Now what can he do on the same stage in the Ford?
5, 4, 3, 30, 2 right.
And the revs really dipped a bit off the start line.
And open right, 70.
He'd have lost time there. Llewellyn 4th overall, and he's only 2 seconds behind Stig Blomqvist in the overall competition.
100 over narrow grid. Absolute left over crest, 100.
Seems that he's really into his stride now, so take a ride on Llewellyn's front bumper along the fastest stretch in the whole competition.
Left tightens. Open left over crest into long open left. Absolute right 100. Caution, long 2 right tightens narrows. And open left 130. Open right 50. 2 right tightens. And open left over crest into long open right 50. Long 2 right narrows 100. 5 left narrows.
No Armco barriers, no runoff areas in rallying, so total control and confidence the requirement exhibited there by Llewellyn at well over 100 miles an hour. And Llewellyn fastest through the first section of the stage, 63 seconds, 1 second quicker than Louise Aitken-Walker. And he might have lost a bit of time through the hairpins, the British champion not getting tempted to attack too hard through there. And over recent seasons in the MG Metro 6R4 and in the British Championship winning Toyota, Llewellyn has become very much a 4-wheel drive expert. Some experience of rear-wheel drive, but not much, so he's got a bit to adapt to here.
2 right, 150. 4 left opens, 50.
Going pretty well up the hill and approaching the second checkpoint, a check that Louise went through in 1:53. And Llewellyn has not gained time up that hill, still only 1 second quicker than Louise. And he possibly needs a better drive than this if he's going to challenge Stig Blomqvist for that 3rd place. Last corner before the finish, and Llewellyn completes the stage in 2 minutes, 11 seconds.
2:11 there.
11's good, yeah, nice and tidy.
On that last corner, Louise said she did brake a little bit and it was flat, but as she would put it, I had to have a wee little lift. It wasn't quite on, I didn't think.
Enjoyed it, obviously.
Yes, I felt a lot more at home that time.
Watching you over the bridge and in other places on the stage, the old elbows are flying.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of
it was
work
pretty
going
exciting going in here. Yeah, I think it's probably been rear-wheel drive again now. It's the odd one out for me, seeing as I'm so used to four-wheel drive now.
Yeah.
And having the tail going out instead of the other end makes you all working quite hard at it.
So the first three gone, their rally challenge is completed, and it's likely they'll finish with Louise in 6th place, Fiorio 5th and Llewellyn 4th. The two leaders battle it out for overall victory shortly, but before that, Stig Blomqvist. He can't afford to relax too much if he's going to hang on to 3rd ahead of Llewellyn. And no one gets off the start line better than the former world champion. The start was fine, but the muddled gear change that followed there, well, it possibly cancelled out all that good work. Certainly cost him a good couple of seconds. And Blomqvist had a really disappointing run up Tholte Will in the Toyota, but it seems that he aggravated an old back injury, and that had him in some pain right the way through the stage. And he was even more uncomfortable with the injury because the car was right-hand drive and he was doing all the work with his left hand. Now, in the left-hand drive Sierra Cosworth, things might be easier. It's a car anyway that he's got a great deal of experience of, both in the World Championship and in circuit races and hill climbs as well. And over the bridge, right on the limit, and almost seemed to brush the wall on the exit. And he's the same time as Llewellyn, not bad at all, taking into account that missed gear change at the start. Real exhibition stuff through the hairpins, the revs up all the way through. And to hang on to his place in the top 3, Stig needs a time no worse than 2:13. He started this stage 2 seconds in front of 4th place Llewellyn, and Llewellyn was through the next check in 1 minute 52. That check approaching now, and Blomqvist makes it in precisely the same time, so 3rd place looks comfortable. He was 5 seconds adrift of the leaders Aricola and Wilson before this stage, so I'm sure he's not going to trouble them. But remember that Blomqvist threw away something like 12 seconds last year on his rather overcautious drive to the title, so it might not be all over yet. 2 minutes 11 seconds for Blomqvist, the same time as Llewellyn. Blomqvist safe in 3rd.
I lost a lot of time from the beginning because I get all kind of gears in. I missed 3rd gear and then I get 1st and 5th and everything for a while, so it was nearly standing still from the beginning.
But you came blasting through the bridge here. Was that a bit of the anger and frustration coming out?
Yeah, a little bit, I believe.
Blomqvist over the bridge, inch-perfect judgment at 80 miles an hour.
Through here, Stig. Yeah. Well, we were all stepping backwards.
Including the Rally Challenge leaders whose minds were on their own drives to what they hope will be the overall title. Aricola leads Wilson by a second, and it'll be Wilson to go first. And one irony is that they're both Ford contracted drivers, both getting a lot of experience in the new Ford Sapphire Cosworth. This is Wilson on the Ulster Rally. But the decider in the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge will be in the Ford Sierra Cosworth, a quick car and a very difficult 2.54 miles to cover.
The thing with this stage is a very, very high-speed stage, and you've got the corners at the start, which, if you have full confidence in the car, for sure the corners are flat. But, you know, getting into a car, it's a little bit strange, and you haven't driven it a lot. It takes a lot of confidence to be able to take them flat, and I think, you know, that's probably where the time is to be had on the first part. And also probably the last part as well. I think there's one particular piece up the top of the hill here that can be taken a bit quicker. But as you can see, the competition here is just pretty intense, and I think obviously we've all adapted, you know, very, very well to a car, and it's going to be really difficult. I mean, OK, we've got 1 second to make up, and I suppose in theory we should be able to make that second, but Penty's driving very, very well, and you know, you've just got to get everything right here. So you've got to really give it to me.
Right, I will.
Good man.
You can sense the tension and indeed the determination there from Malcolm Wilson and Nicky Grist. Really give it to me, says Wilson. And these two are in for an exciting couple of minutes.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 60.
Well, that's not a great way for Wilson to start what could be his most important stage of the season.
Flat right, 70.
The engine died a little off the start line, not the explosive start that you get from someone like Blomqvist, but he's up through the gearbox now and into his stride.
Flat left of a crest, 120.
And perhaps the thought that he might have squandered a second off the start line will make him go even harder.
20, care flat left. Continues over crest.
And Nicky Grist has responded to the request, and he really injects a sense of drama and a sense of urgency into those pace notes, and Malcolm Wilson is certainly responding as well.
Absolute right, 50. Absolute right, 30. Flat left of a crest, 20. Flat right long crest, 30. Here, flat right long opens, 50.
My goodness, a couple of corners there that Wilson was wondering if they were flat out. He hardly seemed to lift off the power as he blasts his way to the first checkpoint in a terrific time, 62 seconds, the fastest so far by a second. Now that bridge is where the other drivers congregate. Ricola would have been watching and indeed wondering if he can go quite that hard.
And flat left, 60. Over King.
And it looks as if Wilson was cleanly through the hairpins, and now he's really attacking up the hill. He knows he's going well, and he knows he's got to keep going well. He's got to be 2 seconds better than Ricola to take the title. And right on the limit through that left-hander, lifting a wheel using all the road. This is terrific stuff. And there's a difficult corner coming up at the top of this hill once again. And Wilson will want to keep the power hard down if he's confident enough. And at speeds like this and in a championship like this, there's a lot of adrenaline, but the adrenaline mustn't take over completely. Second checkpoint, and this might frighten Ricola even more. 1 minute 50 seconds. He's pulled out another second on that totally committed drive up the hill, and that might be the 1 second that tips the balance. We'll see when Penty goes next. 2:11, the fastest time so far from Blomqvist and from Llewellyn. Powering to the finish, sideways to the finish almost. 2 minutes, 9 seconds.
2:09.3.
We'll forget the 0.3. It's rounded down to 2:09, and that's a time that really is going to cause Penty Ricola big problems.
Okay.
Thank you, mate.
And Penty must get the same time or better to take the title outright. 2:09 with what was almost a disastrous start. Hear how the revs die. Wilson has to look down to sort himself out. Maybe a couple of seconds went there.
Apart from the start, I think we got probably most of it right, and I don't know how much we lost at the start, but I think Penty will... He could probably match it. I don't think he'll be able to beat it, so we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed that he's 1 second slower.
You'll be thinking long and hard back there now. Good. You're happy with that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I am happy with it.
Well done.
Thank you.
Shit. Well, if you go any quicker, mate, you definitely deserve it.
And certainly Penty Ricola has got the ability to match what Wilson did there. He too is a Ford man, a Sapphire Cosworth here on the recent San Remo rally. This is Penty's style on one famous tarmac stage, but it's all or nothing now up Thalty Will on the Isle of Man.
Penty knows what's coming. He knows the areas where we've got to make up the time if it's to be made up. And I think the thing that we hope for most of all is that he gets his gear changing right this time, because certainly when we had our run in the Toyota, he missed it a couple of times, and I think we lost 2 or 3 seconds there. So if we can have a good clean run at this, we stand a chance.
You're in for an exciting couple of minutes, aren't you?
Yes, looking forward to this.
And so, in a strange way, is Penty Ricola. Rarely does the sport of rallying come down to such a clear-cut issue. Penty Ricola must cover the next 2.54 miles in at least 2 minutes 9 seconds to become the Mobil 1 Rally Challenge champion for 1990. And for him, absolutely no problems off the start line. Power hard down, no missed gears, and you have to assume that he's already up on Malcolm Wilson's time here. But from now on, Malcolm Wilson really threw caution to the wind. Has Ricola got the confidence to do the same? evidence of all that, he's going just as hard, only coming off the power where he really has to. Now Wilson down to the first check was 1 minute 2 seconds. How close will Auricola be to that? And Auricola's ahead, a second faster than his big rival so far. That must put him in really good shape for the title. For Wilson to win now, Auricola must lose, well, 3 seconds on the climb up the hill. And he lost a bit of momentum coming out of that last hairpin. That can affect him getting up the steepest part of the stage here. You need all the power you can hang on to. This is the corner where Wilson was so spectacular. Wider line from Auricola, the back almost getting away there. And Wilson was certainly quicker through here. Now hard up the hill. And also hard on the brakes. That was untidy too. Almost clipping the bank on the exit. Auricola trying everything he knows to keep it together and keep it quick. But Wilson was through the next check in 1 minute 50 seconds. 1:51 for Auricola, 1:51. He's lost 2 seconds to Wilson. And now the championship target that he has to go for is that time of 2 minutes 9 seconds. 2:10 and it's a tie. 2:11 and the title goes to Wilson. Last couple of corners, the finish coming up. 2:11. 2 minutes 11 seconds for Pentti Auricola. Malcolm Wilson is the champion by 1 second.
Pentti, bad luck. 2:11. You miss it by a second, but you obviously gave it everything you had.
I wouldn't say it was bad luck. I think it was just Malcolm drove better. And we had a... going into the halfway through in the bridge, my right foot slid from a brake without the throttle, so perhaps I gained there 1 second there, but I think I got a few grey hairs.
Well, you gained a few years there as well, I think.
And after that, perhaps I was a little bit too aggressive and quite a lot of wheel spin, but it should look good in the camera.
And this was the slightly wild line of Pentti Auricola. He was ahead over the bridge. Up the hill, the adrenaline took over, and 3 vital seconds slipped away. And Pentti's time there has now reached Malcolm Wilson down in the service area. Delight for him and for co-driver Nicky Grist. And tremendous sporting atmosphere. These drivers rarely get together to work and compete quite so close to each other. They love proving who's best, but they've got great admiration and respect for each other's abilities.
Well done.
The result then of the 5th and last stage and that all-important and very hard-fought 2-second gap between Wilson and Auricola gives the title to Wilson. Auricola, Llewellyn and Blomqvist share second place on 2:11. And overall, 10 minutes 43 seconds is the total time for Wilson over the 5 stages. Blomqvist takes third behind Auricola. And all a great contrast for Malcolm Wilson from last year, when a puncture finished his Rally Challenge chances on the very first stage. And as a result, the champagne tastes especially sweet for a man who's proved to his great rivals that he's an all-round rally champion. Malcolm Wilson, winner of the 1990 Mobil 1 Rally Challenge.